Hey guys, it's Jeff. Welcome back to the channel. As you can see, it's not the usual setup we got here. Got a guest.
Well,
it's my good friend Tyler.
Very nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. No, thanks for taking time out of your day to kind of jump into this. So, I don't know if people in the past have kind of seen through this channel. I used to do like podcast stuff that would kind of get uploaded, and it was just kind of conversations with people I found pretty interesting, and it's just great to kind of get back into that flow. I'm not saying future content is going to be like this, but Tyler and I were chatting, and I was kind of inspired to kind of sit down and kind of go through his mind about some certain topics. So just some backstory. I knew of Tyler from high school, but then we kind of rekindled our friendship a little more through the gym, and I've kind of made a video before, like I think one of my recent videos was talk about just how fitness is really important. And that's just been like a great building block for kind of just like friendships or talking with people. And I don't know, there's a lot, you can kind of go into detail of how profound it is, but the meat and potatoes per se of why we're here today is we're going to talk about a hot button topic that I just kind of find interesting, and a lot of people can relate to it.
For sure.
Dating. So we'll jump into it a little bit. I mean, there's a lot of paths we can kind of go with this. Wanted to just sit down and kind of have a really candid conversation about it, because at least for my personal thoughts on it, it is such a interesting time to where people are with just connecting, especially with dating when it's such a human element to it. Not to get too sidetracked here, but just some things that come to mind before we jump into it is like dating apps. I think even politics today is a good influence on there. I think it would be quite ignorant to say that it's not an influence now at this point in age, especially given our age demographic. I just turned 27, so I'm closer to 30, but I'm still like, I think I'm like old Gen Z. Like I'm like the first year, because I was looking up, it was like 1997 to like 2012.
Yeah, what's the cutoff? Is it 97?
Yeah, I was like, look, yeah.
So right on the cusp of it.
So I'm like, it's an interesting time because, I don't know, like we can kind of get into it, but just with dating in general, I see so many YouTube videos nowadays that are in my recommended feed where people just kind of, not that we all share like a psychosis of like dating experiences, but there's some overlap for sure. And I don't know if it's just an America thing, maybe it's a Western world thing. I know different cultures are out there, not like life is all the same in America compared to other places in the world. Some people hate living here. I kind of disagree with them hard on that, because I've traveled well, at least in the world. I haven't been everywhere, but I have a good sense of like knowledge, I guess, from my travels.
You hate it until you start to miss it, and then you realize what you have, right?
Yep.
So,
and people kind of take it for granted. So
yeah,
it's a good segue into here, but I think with how people in America, we all just had the election, pretty big deal. I think in our age group, some people are either first-time voters, maybe most second to third-time voters, I would say, because it is crazy that you could start voting as early as 18. I feel like that's a good thing. I wouldn't change it, but just given how, just some backstory with Tyler and I's conversations here, we've kind of seen some like behavior pre-election to post-election.
Definitely.
So especially with men and women, and I feel like it's funny because growing up I was always like, okay, I know politics is a very diversive like topic. It can get very touchy, right? Yeah. To put like an understatement right there is touchy, because some people it's like their whole identity. Yeah. And I find it interesting, but I also don't want it to be like my sole personality, you know? You become one-dimensional.
Well, it can really turn relationships upside down if you're not careful about it. And you have to really acknowledge who you're talking to about it And, you know, if you can't really gauge what side of the political spectrum they're on, it's kind of best to just maybe not even talk about it.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you do, and if they don't side with your views, you are immediately getting judged.
Which is wild how the state of affairs has kind of gone to that point, because with men and women, what I was talking with Tyler a couple of minutes before we even hit record on here, that like the divide between men and women voting, it's like men more conservative, women more liberal, right? To make it like brass tacks. And we're like, how did it get to here? Why is it like this? Is it trickling down to dating? Like, what are the first thoughts that pop in your head when we kind of bring that up?
I think the divisiveness starts with probably the most controversial subject, which is abortion. So I think a lot of women obviously want to have that right and they want to have that option. Now, obviously, if you're conservative, you are subconsciously voting for not being against abortion per se, but conservatives don't believe in that, and they're obviously very pro-life. So I think that divide kind of stems from the abortion issue, and a lot of women obviously want to have the reproductive rights. They don't want that taken away from them. But I also think that's a huge misconception because they keep thinking Trump is going to take it away. He's not. He has said so many times he wants to leave it up to the state. So I don't know why that even ties into his current campaign and his presidency, and why so many people link him to being so against abortion. He's not anti-abortion. He just wants to leave it up to the state. So I think a lot of it comes from that, but also just like social media in general and what it's done, and how different influencers will cram information down your throat when they don't actually live in the same reality as the average person. And just because you like a celebrity, you might think, oh, well, I love XYZ, so I'm going to listen to them. But those policies don't apply to that person like they apply to the everyday American. So I think a lot of that has influence too. And the biggest issue, in my opinion, is people don't do their own research. They just don't care to.
Yeah, and it's like, it's weird because you can almost divide life. Well, I don't know. It's like you can't divide life up into like social media or not. But like some people, a great majority of their day is kind of connected into that, to where I was reading recently that like Reddit had a meltdown because a great majority of its users are more left leaning on there. And, you know, they're like, they'll parrot, you know, like not censorship, or maybe they will actually want to censor people that have a different opinion. And at least in the school system that we were both in Southern California, growing up in the school, it was like, yeah, it's okay to have different ideals and you can have debates and stuff. But I wonder where this culture shift changed, where like, I guess people are just hypocrites, right?
Yeah,
I don't know. It's
I think things got too extreme. I think for a long time we were pretty moderate, and this is before you and I could even vote, but Democrats were actual Democrats, Republicans were Republicans. Now everything has gone so left that I think a lot of people, and I don't think it matters what side you're on, but the reality is things have gotten way too extreme on the left. And I think that's driven a lot of people either to side with that or people to be extremely against it. So now I feel like instead of having the left and the right, you have the extreme left and the extreme right.
Yep.
It's like there's no balance anymore, and I think we need balance again. Obviously, like we can go over so many issues that have been caused from the past couple terms, but maybe that's a topic for later in the video.
Right? Yeah. No, well said. And I think it's almost like a loud minority gets, you know, clicks and stuff and attention, because besides time, I think the next like most valuable currency in the world is like attention. Especially now, like how people want, like we can get a little meta here, but like people are watching this right now. Like I appreciate that, because with so many distractions out there in the world, like I easily catch myself all the time being like, wow, I was on YouTube Shorts for like an hour and a half. I told myself I was going to watch some anime or go on a walk or go to the gym. Before I know it, it's gone. So it's almost like...
It's easy, man, especially YouTube Shorts. It's so consumable. It's just a swipe, continue, swipe, continue. It's like eating, you know?
So, yeah, and that also brings up a topic about this. I don't know too much about how you feel about like spiritual topics and stuff, but do you feel like people are a little more morally or spiritually bankrupt to where it just things are how they are today?
I think so. I think There's obviously a divide, right? So you have a lot of people who still are very religious and they have very traditional values, and then there's the other side that has been, just for one example, OnlyFans. You know, you would a lot of people would say that is not traditional, that is not spiritual in any way.
True.
I'm not judging anyone that does that. Obviously, you have your own right to do whatever you want, but I think now more than ever, it's easy to make money from doing things that are socially not valued as like traditional per se. And so by just hopping on something like OnlyFans and selling yourself, essentially, you can make a quick dollar. And I think that has really corrupted a lot of morals of a lot of people. And I'm not just saying OnlyFans is the only thing, but I think just the access that people have too on the internet and what they're exposed to, I think can really screw you up, especially if you're somebody that's, 14, 15 years old and you don't know any better. I think when you see certain things on the internet, it can mess with you.
Because I don't know, like, I guess in hindsight, I could always be like, you kind of tend to favorably look back in your past and like, or you'll, what's it called? Nostalgia. Like good, like, oh, we had a childhood and, smartphones didn't come around till like 2007 or 8, right? And it's interesting to see because I honestly truly believe in social dynamics. This is going to be a generalization, right? I feel like when we're in conversation, sometimes you have to generalize, but, oh, it doesn't affect everyone. There's always outliers in life. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. But I see through my friends that are girls, when talking about certain topics, at least in a group setting, and I see this more on the internet than actually my friend group, so maybe that's more a reflection of how people are online instead of like the real world when you go out and chat with people. But I tend to think there's almost a groupthink, or we don't want to rock the boat per se, to where you may get outcasted because I feel as a guy, I mean, you can get totally outcasted as a guy. Like, let's say you're just really extremist and you just got some stuff that, like, okay, yeah, this guy is not chill to hang with, right? But for women, when I was thinking, I'm like, okay, there was a thing I was like 7 out of 10 are going left or liberal. And I think
for
it's
women specifically?
Women specifically.
Is that under a certain age or is that just women?
It was like 18 to 29 range, and I was comparing it to 18 to 29 of men.
Okay, so like young adults.
And I think what happened is that, like, growing up, I always thought, like, blue, it was weird. I was so childish. I was like, well, blue is good and red is bad, just like Star Wars.
Star Wars, Jedi, and Sith.
So, yeah, that's how I kind of looked at the political parties growing up. And I came to notice that, especially between, like, college, when I was like 2016 to 2020, which was Trump's first presidency, I think this stuff started to occur to where I don't always like to blame one thing, but I feel like in one shape or another, feminism has some repercussions to where these people in the middle, mostly men, kind of got alienated or felt like, oh, why are we getting like hated on for a select group of guys? There's always going to be outliers in life that, make everyone else look bad. But
kind of like, yeah, men were like generalized for a little bit, right? Kind of put in this category of like every guy is not for this feminist movement, which isn't the case. There's obviously some people that are more supportive of it than others. There are a few people who just think it's complete kind of BS, but that's kind of a topic for another day.
Yeah, and it's like we've almost lost the plot per se, and I feel like there's a lot of detail we can go into that, but I would be kind of foolish to say like there isn't some cause or link to it to where we kind of see the demographics today, because I think when Trump was campaigning, it appealed a lot to younger men because it wasn't like they were getting, I don't know, like alienated or some forth. That's what I'm thinking when I'm looking at the data. There's a lot of factors out there that, we could go into a different topic, but I think due to this, to link it back to dating, right? When I was using dating apps, and I've talked with Tyler about this more times than I could count, because as a fellow single guy, I feel like talk about these issues, it's nice to relate because at least 3 of my other friends that I knew from high school, they're all in relationships and stuff, and they're kind of understanding and stuff. But I feel like if you don't have your boots in the ground in the trenches, like you may have a disconnect from it, and nothing wrong with them on that. But it's like once you're not experiencing that kind of stuff no more, which is good for them.
Yeah,
Let's say it turns into like a happy, fulfilling relationship. That's awesome. I feel like everyone wants that, whether they want to admit it or not. Especially with, some men, they have movements where it's like, I'm going my own way, I'm checking out of women. I'm like, okay, like I guess you do that. And the opposite.
I think those are more like temporary breakdowns of just emotions that kind of override their rational thoughts, and they kind of just get into a pit of like not wanting to do anything really. It doesn't even have to do with women at that point. I think they kind of just sit back, and I know some people too where they get in that headspace and they don't even want to go and do anything outside of girls. Like they just don't want to go out and hang out, and they're just in that kind of depressive state. So I think that's more of a phase that a lot of people maybe get into. But you could definitely say it's caused by that for sure.
And what was also interesting is like after the election results, there was like a increase in searches for like the 4B movement, which is like a South Korean like feminist thing.
And how to move to Canada.
Right?
Big search on that.
And like, I mean, I visited Canada and stuff, but I don't know if I would want to live there. And it's just interesting how people can be like so emotionally invested in something, because at least through this channel, and I may have future videos on this where I kind of give my insights on stoicism. I just find that philosophy like very fascinating. Just kind of like you kind of not conquer your mind, but you get some control over it. Yeah. And I feel like if people had more of a level base to where you're not ruled emotionally by your unconscious mind, which is just like, oh, this is a knee-jerk reaction, like of, how it emotionally pains you, maybe we can actually come to a better understanding between men and women. And because with what we were talking about earlier, we're like, oh, I don't know with dating. Maybe it's going to be another 5 or 10 years before like things culturally change, because it just seems like we're speaking on the guy experience. I'm not saying women don't have any issues dating and so forth. We just have different perspectives and ways to go through it. For women, it's almost like you have 100 like flavors to choose from, and like maybe 90 of them are like toxic, but you won't know until like you try them. While men, it's more like you got to go through 100 doors and you have to see each one through, and a lot of rejections in it, which I think is part of life, which why people will give you advice being like you got to take rejection straight on the face and not be bitter about it, because that's life, which makes sense. It's not like, some people get lucky and it's like the first 3 people and then boom, they find something.
Well, I think there's an actual stat on that, and don't quote me on this, but I believe it takes around 3 relationships before you actually find the one.
Wow, I didn't know that. Huh.
The majority of people are not actually getting married to the first person they date. So,
and I think I was watching, I think it was on Fox or some other news outlet. Maybe it was an Australian one, because I don't know, I've been getting recommended these like Australian news nets, and they have some really good coverage of like American like stories, which is fascinating, because I always wonder like what other countries think of what's going on.
They don't have enough bogus activity going on in their own country,
right?
So they got to resort to us.
And it's pretty good coverage. Some of it's like actually like interesting to see. And they were talking about how I think like dating dynamics and certain people, they'll either just like be misandry like going around, which is like, type of hatred. I feel like it's a very double standard, which sucks, because I think from our perspective, I think the noble right thing to do is you kind of assess the situation. This is how it is, and then you move accordingly, but you don't lash out and be a child about it, and like, because that's where incel movement stuff kind of happened with men, and then it just makes us all look bad and kind of makes dating just overall a net negative. And it's a bummer, because I don't really see a solution in the near future, but I'm also not pessimistic and being like, oh, we're cooked kind of thing.
I think, have you ever heard of the saying regression to the means?
Yes, in some shape or form.
Yeah, so basically, like, obviously, no matter how bad or how good things get, they always kind of meet back in the middle. So I feel like we've hit a tipping point recently where things have dropped to basically as low as they can get. And I feel like within the next 5, maybe 10 years, it's hard to say, but I think in the near future, things will start to kind of elevate again back to where dating used to be. Nowadays, obviously, and maybe this is a good shift into dating apps and what that has done to us as a society, but dating apps, I think, has made it even harder for people to date because now you have so many options just at the swipe of your finger, and also so many people have countless people in their direct messages or in their message box in these dating apps, and you basically scroll through them and you filter through like, no, yes, oh, all right, maybe I'll try this one, all right, maybe I won't, I'll give it a chance. And then like while they're on the date, they'll be getting messages from other people that are like coming up on their phone, and then you can't even like interact and have an actual date. So I think dating apps have just saturated this part of like life to an extent where it's hard to find quality. And I think if you're trying to find a sustainable, healthy relationship through dating apps, my guess is you're gonna fail 9 times out of 10.
Which is a shame because I think also with that stat included, you're also from the male user perspective, I think these companies, and this is from my personal experience as well, they kind of just see you as a dollar sign. I mean, what's the end goal? You get a date and you're off their app. That's lost.
They want you to be on
their
app.
You, and it's sinister.
Yeah.
It's very sinister when you like really delve into it, and it's quite depressing, honestly, to think that some people out there are just spending their life, time, money, emotional bandwidth, like you name it.
You have to think that the system is set up against you immediately when you hop on that app. Because if you think about it, if everybody on their platform received dates and everybody was now taken, they go bankrupt. They go out of business. They have no business. If everyone on their app just found a relationship, what do they do now? So I gotta think their algorithm is set up in a way to where people that you might be swiping on, so let's say if you swipe right on them, they might not even be seeing you. Like the algorithm might be hiding them from you so they don't even get the chance to swipe right on you, so you get less matches. Because if you're just getting matches left and right from the start, like you're gonna be off like that. So I think they want you to be on that app for as long as possible, and I do think they have some algorithmic corruption going on. I don't know how accurate that is, but I have seen reports of that being a thing, and I've actually seen people who work for apps like Bumble and Tinder who have stated this app is to work against you. It's not in your favor.
Yeah.
Which I think a lot of people probably don't know.
Which sucks, because it's like these people are kind of going in it blind, because we have a decade of data now. I remember, I think Tinder dropped on the scene in like 2013. I think there's been dating apps before that, but Tinder, I think, was revolutionary in the sense of making it mainstream.
Yeah,
like it was
I think
acceptable.
Before that, it was like Hot or Not or something.
Yeah.
It was like the one.
I used that in
then,
early high school, which is crazy because I'm like thinking back and I'm like, it was addicting because at that time it was so novel and there was no pay to win or whatever. Like the matches then were nice, and when my user experience now, it is so barren of like options or anything worth your time. And I've sat back late at night sometimes just looking, like pondering and being like, damn, that definitely some time was taken there, but it's okay. All you could do now is what you could do in the present.
Now, I'm actually curious. So we've talked about this prior,
Yes.
but now I haven't been on a dating app for years. I haven't used them. I haven't considered it. I just think it's kind of a waste of time. I know you have used them in the past, and so I'm just kind of curious, what kind of quality have you found? And when you do match with someone, does it even lead to a date? And if it does lead to a date, how many times out of like 5 would you say does it even work out?
All right, that's a lot to ponder there, my friend. Let's see. Where do I even start? So I think the first thing is, if anyone is going to use one, it's going to be Hinge, in my opinion. That's quality.
Now, what makes it quality compared to like Tinder?
There's a lot more flexibility in the app. Like you create these prompts, you can have photos, and you can respond to it like a prompt, a question, an interest they like, something to spark up a conversation that's better than being like, oh, hey, you're cute. Or I don't know, something like that a girl that, especially if people are, you know, have high standards for themselves and, you know, want someone who's like beautiful inside and out, the girls you're going to be looking at, it's like you definitely have competition, which is fine. I think that's just part of life. And if you're ignorant to that, it's like you're just kind of
right.
delusional.
So you're saying you want to stand out by pointing something out other than like a physical feature,
Yeah.
right? You want to point out something about their personality and interest of theirs, like something like that.
So I would go through that, and when I was on Hinge from like 2020 to 2022, and then I got banned. Still don't know to this day what I did wrong. If you go
banned from a social media app, it's just the funniest
if
thing,
you want to do something really fun, go to the App Store, filter through the reviews of Hinge, and go to recent. You will just see pages and pages of 1 to 2 star reviews.
What did you do to get banned?
I still don't know to this day. Maybe it could be something as arbitrary as someone didn't really like what I said and they just report you. And I think through Hinge, I was doing a lot of research on this because I felt very slighted at the time. I'm like, damn, like I'm going by the system. At least tell me what I did wrong. They won't elaborate. They won't show you what you did that was wrong. To at least, can you imagine like you get reprimanded and you at least don't have any constructive criticism to at least like do into dating in the real world or something? Like, oh shit, maybe I said something like out of line. I don't know if I did. Did I? You know, it's very gray area. But I really liked the quality of women on there. I remember like at one time, so. At one time, I was like, you know what? Hinge is the best I'm going to get. If I'm doing dating apps or not, I need to find some way back in there. So this is a little story time. But first of all, Tinder, and especially Bumble, Bumble's cooked. Bumble is, I wouldn't even be surprised if that company goes out of business in the next 5 years. It is really bad because fundamentally their business practice was to let women initiate conversations.
And it just wasn't happening?
Yeah, because
they just
they don't like to start conversations when they don't need to. And I totally get where they're coming from.
Now, my question is, why hop on the app? If you are a girl and you hop on the app, if you're not going to, because it tells you, I think it tells you when you sign up that the girl makes the first move. So if you're signing up to that and you are a girl, why are you even giving it any time of day if you're not actually going to message? Now, that's where, in my opinion, I think social media apps are ego. And I think a lot of people use it to boost their ego and boost their own confidence. And because, you know, when you see someone swiped right on you, it's like reassuring of like, oh yes, I am this, I am that, I am what I think.
Good old
this
validation.
This person wants me. So I think to an extent, dating apps are corrupt in that way. And I think a lot of people will hop on them for, like you said, validation and just for that quick endorphin boost, just to know that they are getting applause basically from someone that sees them, just to make them feel better about themselves.
And you'll never get that out of a girl or a guy, most likely, because that is it would harm someone's ego. And on top of that, if you say a statement like that and admit to it, you're kind of like messed up, honestly, because it's just very like selfish and it lacks empathy or an emotional intelligence, in my opinion. Because I've never went on these apps and kind of went with that mindset. Did I go out of these apps for superficial reasons in the past? Damn right I did. I mean, they're dating apps. I think if anyone told you, like, oh, you know, I was very virtuous and I went through it, like, they're full of BS, in my opinion. But that's just me. But going back to Bumble, they were losing, like, I think it was like 40-50%. The CEO was panicking. So they removed the thing that made their app unique to where women make the first move. Now men can do it.
Now men? So can either of them, or is it just men now?
I haven't used Bumble in a while, but I remember maybe a couple months ago when I did it, if I matched, which was very rare on there, you could send an icebreaker, and then they would still have to like accept the chat or whatever.
Oh.
But it was just like, when you fundamentally have to change what made your product unique, it's like you lose your identity. So going back to Hinge, for my story, I had someone like configure with my iCloud account to where I had to like get another user in there, and I was like, am I really missing anything? A year or two later, this app's been out for a while, maybe it's curated more, maybe the people, because there's a stat like more than 50 to 60% of people now meet online. I don't know where that comes from. Maybe it's like a select few of a 10% of a population size.
That's crazy to me.
Yep.
I mean, I guess just with social media, it's so easy to meet people now, and your accessibility. There's so many people that are on these forums too, like Reddit, and there's other forums, and I know people will even have meetups. Like people will post forums about like certain meetups in big cities, and even for something like a car show. I know this is getting off topic, but it's so easy now just to meet someone online.
Yeah.
Very easy.
Super easy now, which I guess you can name as a somewhat of a pro, like the flexibility of that. But
there's pros and cons to it for sure. There's a lot of downsides, I think, which could tie into relationships too, and a lot of girls just having guys in their DMs, and guys that probably won't stop bugging them either, and so it can be.
I feel for that too.
Yeah.
Like, ugh. And it's interesting to see how, to address your question of like, oh, what were the conversion rate, or like how these. So I would match. We would kind of have some back and forth, and then they would either ghost. We would plan something, ghost, then something in person. The last time I had a successful Hinge date to where we were actually like dating for like multiple weeks and like liked each other, but we didn't know where it was going, was like early 2022. And I remember because the Rams won the Super Bowl that year, and I was like, "Hey, you want to come to a Super Bowl party with me and my friends?" And she was like, "Yeah, why not?" But I was 20, I think I was 23 at the time, and she was 19. So, given like age gap and stuff, now that I'm like 27, if I even meet a girl that's like 22, 23, I raise an eyebrow, because as you get older, you kind of just, like, I'm at this weird part of my life where I'm like, I'm definitely more of a homebody. Like, I would say I'm more introverted instead of like extroverted, to where my activities are very solo, and I feel like great fulfillment or joy in them. And
Do you feel like you thrive solo?
Yes, I do. And doesn't mean that, I lack balance in my life, but I definitely am more like, okay, like I can have it once in a while where I go out with friends and stuff, but I don't need it every weekend to feel like, oh, am I wasting my weekends away? Like, I don't really have those kind of thoughts. And maybe, I find a girl that's more fitting of my like personal, I don't know, I can't think of a word right now, like preferences.
Yeah.
But it seems like at least the girls I meet lately are a little more extroverted, and maybe that's good, because I think there's some positive here where women can be, or a good woman or a great woman, in my opinion, is like a nice compliment to your life, or makes your life even better, to where it's like something very profound, and you're like, wow, this is my life partner. We're going through
For
this.
sure.
This is a cool experience.
And I think maybe for anyone watching, if you're wondering, like, well, if I am introverted, if I am a homebody, and you guys are basically talking down upon dating apps, how do I find someone? And to me, I think the best way is just to do what you enjoy doing. So whether it's like hiking, if you go to the gym, maybe you're someone who likes the beach a lot, you surf or anything like that, go to those places, do it often, and you're gonna see other people there. And I think eventually something will happen, and I think you'll meet somebody. And if you look at most relationships too, most people don't have successful relationships when they're out looking for a relationship. Most people find one when they're actually not looking for it, and they're just kind of out and about doing whatever.
Kind
and
of backwards, right? It's funny how that works.
They just come across someone and they rock with them, and it just happens. So I think when you search for something, and that kind of implies on going on these dating apps and swiping, because you're proactively searching, you tend to just not find what you're looking for. So I think if you just continue to do your passions, like find hobbies, just go out and do things. Doesn't have to mean you're going out clubbing and you're going to like very social places. But if you're just doing things in your life and you're going out and you're just meeting people organically, I think naturally you will find someone.
Which, there's definitely hope out there, but I don't know, it's funny because I think my day-to-day, like Tyler and I will kind of cross paths at the gym, and we kind of catch up and stuff, and we really like our gym and kind of like, what we build in our lives, and we have similar values and stuff. So it's nice to have him on the channel to, put a face to it, because some of these videos I kind of pop up are from the conversations we have. So shout out to you for, kind of helping spur some of those ideas.
Of course,
so,
dude, yeah.
It's
we
nice.
always have great talks.
Yeah, and I think there's more good than bad, I think, to like kind of wrap things up here in a nutshell. Not sure. It's funny. Sometimes when I say that, it kind of goes on for another 10 minutes or so. But like with life, you really don't know what's around the corner. And I've made a video where the YouTube algorithm was very nice to me, where I was talking about just being present oriented, and I had a good amount of comments from people of different walks of life outside of the US where like, wow, I'm so glad, we kind of need this, or, more people need to employ this, because like it is a crazy thing to think about. That's like when you're talking to someone that's like maybe he's not aware of this concept, they're like, wait, so my past and future don't exist? Yes and no. You can look back to your past to maybe learn from something, but don't hold on to it with regret or bad things. And then in the future, don't have anxiety about, like, an example today, I could have stressed about, like, oh, what are our topics we're going to talk today? Hopefully he's in a good mood, or, kind of stuff that's out of my control, right? Exactly. And if people kind of more go with a present thing, maybe we wouldn't be ruled by such fear to where like some things that, I think this is a good segue, but I know you've been making your own YouTube channel and stuff, and some of the topics you talk on there are, maybe some of it's dating, or lately it's more about politics and how, you'll kind of go through content and give your opinions on it. And I personally think where these people, where they feel comfortable to kind of record themselves like on the internet, is like through either fear or anxiety of the future, or just being very illogical and kind of thinking like, okay, this is how things are today. Let's take my personal feelings out of it and kind of reassess. So take the floor with that. And,
I think that's an interesting one to get into, but I think a lot of people are very narrow-minded, first and foremost. And if you are, it's hard to change your views on something. And if you have your own opinion and you're very stern on that, it can be really difficult to try and shift what someone thinks. But to your point about people recording themselves, having these like crazy freak-out reactions, I think it's over-dramatized, but I think it's for attention a lot of the times. Some of these people, I personally think if they're not getting validation in their personal lives, they feel like they need to reach out to an online audience. And how can you get that? Well, let me freak out on camera and go crazy and have an exponential crisis and exponential crisis and try and get views from that, right? And engagement. And let's see who replies to this. So I think a lot of people resort to that. Number one, if their candidate didn't win, since we're talking about politics, then they feel the need to like try and validate themselves in some other way. So if they post a freak out video and then someone replies saying, oh my gosh, I completely agree, like I don't know how this happened, they're getting that dose of validation, right? And they're like, okay, see, I'm right. This shouldn't have happened. This person agrees with me. But I think it does so much worse for our society than it does good, because number one, what outcome is that going to change? Like them posting those videos, what is that going to do that's productive at all, other than make people look at it and go, this is absolutely insane. What are you doing? Please stop.
Or the other side where they double down on it, reinforce that belief, and then you have an echo chamber.
Yeah, then you have an echo chamber of what is most likely to be false narratives and things that aren't even true. And I think that's one of the biggest problems, and I think that's why this shift just happened. I think too many people are fed up with the direction that this country has been headed. And, the popular vote speaks for itself, right? So a lot of people are saying...
Not all those people could have been radical,
Yeah.
I bet a lot of moderates voted, or people that went Democrat.
Look at every single swing state. Every swing state that Trump lost in 2020, he won this election. So if that doesn't tell you that people were ready for a change, I don't know what will.
Yeah, and then, well, if you voted for Trump, regardless of where your beliefs are, you may never know peace, right? No.
Yeah, that's just...
I remember seeing that clip, and that blew my mind, because if things were flipped, why would people say that? Like, honest to God, like, I really think we need more empathy, just in general, in all aspects.
We just need to come together as a society and just be in support of bettering this country. Everything is so like, oh, this way or that way, but I think what we're forgetting is that we're all the same nation. We're all in this together, and we all should be bettering each other and ourselves and the country. And I think politics right now has been more divisive than ever, and it's been actually tearing us apart rather than what should be bringing us together in a way.
Yeah.
But again, I think this goes back to regression to the means. I think everything just got way too shifted to the left, and I think things will start to level out. And a lot of these same people that I think are freaking out about this election and terrified for their future, which, my Lord, don't get me started on that, they're going to see that this election isn't what they proposed it to be, and I think they're going to be pretty happy with the outcome. Dare I say that, I do think a lot of people are going to have their minds changed about this campaign, about Donald Trump, just about the whole election.
Yeah, I'm optimistic to see how things will go. Some people are like, this is it. This is the end of days. I lost all my rights. I guess time will tell,
people got to
right?
remember that Trump was already president. He was president once already. So this whole idea of, oh my gosh, we're never going to have another election. He's going to strip all of our rights away. We're not going to be able to do things that we want to do. Did that happen? Did that happen 5 years ago?
Good old fear-mongering.
It's
for
fear-mongering and Trump derangement syndrome.
Oh, yeah. And this all trickles right back down to dating. I honestly truly believe, because it's like, at least in the U.S., it's very hard to escape politics of being in, like, influenced in your life. For someone that's like, oh, you know, it's okay to check out of it. And honestly, I'm not even the most well-informed person. May have I said some things that weren't right? Yeah. But at least I won't. If someone tells me it's wrong, I will owe up to it and be like, thank you for informing me. And, you know, I'll move with that new knowledge and kind of see where things go. So,
yeah, politics, I think, plays a factor for sure in relationships. I think, like both of us, we're religious. Obviously, we're different religions, but like me, I'm of Christian values and Christian beliefs. And so I would like to ideally date somebody who has the same values as me and who believes in the same ideologies. Obviously, if they're opposing a little bit, that doesn't mean I'm not going to be interested, but I do think it plays a part in how you're going to raise a family, how you want to raise your kids. So to some extent, it's definitely important. But I would just say, as long as nobody is extreme in the relationship and you can at least meet in the middle on certain things, it should be fine.
Yeah.
But that's where the problem lies that you're making today, is everyone is so divided and so left or right. So.
And what's crazy is, like, people will, like, I think that's a very level-headed answer. Someone will pick out and be like, so you're saying, like, if someone else had a different ideology, like, you don't like them? Are you being like, blah, blah, blah. All these isms come out and you're like, God, it's so exasperating.
Yeah.
Like, you just can't come to, like, a thought-provoking conversation where it may just come down to insults and stuff. And one thing I wanted to end with, since we were kind of just talking about dating and stuff, especially dating apps, if one thing to take from this whole conversation, guys, is don't use them. And if you are going to use them, at least go with the mindset that you know it's going to be very low success, and you need to temper your expectations very low. Because I would be a hypocrite to say, you know, you should never use them, because I've used them in the past. But I think I've learned some stuff from there that is really helpful for people to kind of learn from and hopefully take value from our conversation, because some people on there, like, if you would put your political ideology or your religion or whatever, like, people would attack you for that and stuff if you rubbed them the wrong way. And I feel like if you actually sat down with someone and met them in person, those kind of things won't happen, because people won't be as bold with that.
It's keyboard warriors.
Yeah, it's keyboard. I get, like, touchpad keyboard warriors, and we need less of those nowadays. So I know we're kind of at the 40-minute mark, so thanks, Tyler, for hopping on here and kind of sharing your viewpoint on here. I hope people kind of took some value from this. And I guess before we wrap up, we were talking about this a little bit before, but I feel like this is a great time to kind of share, you know, what you got going on with your own creative adventures. And yeah.
Well, yeah, thank you so much, first off, Jeff, for having me on. I know we've talked so much about these conversations on our own, so I think we thought it was a good time to, like, bring it to the screen and share it with everyone else. But yeah, I do have a channel. It's called The Deep Scroll, where I talk all things like social commentary, political issues, pop culture stuff, just current events, trends, news. And I have some content on there if you'd like to check it out. It's called The Deep Scroll, or you can just search Tyler Farland in the description.
And I think what we'll do is I'll put it in the description of this video. I'll upload, just make it more convenient. So, yeah.
Well, I had a great time.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, bro.
Yeah, so I'll stand up, guys, but you've made it to this point of the video. Thank you so much for watching. More content to come. I don't know if we'll have more people on. This was just kind of a spur of the moment, and I've been just having, like, endless conversations with Tyler lately about this stuff. And yeah, like he said, wanted to put to video, and glad we had time to just kind of sit down and talk things through. So
hell yeah, thanks,
know?
man.
Yeah. Catch you guys in the next video. Have a great morning, evening, night, afternoon, whatever
you
time
are.
you're watching this. Thanks for taking time every day. So catch you in the next video.
Thanks, guys.
Peace. Bye-bye.